The warning lights flashed red across the control panel. Tejo cursed under his breath as another shudder ran through his small cargo ship. The asteroid had come out of nowhere, appearing on his sensors too late to avoid completely. Now his hull had a 3-meter gash and his life support was failing. "This is cargo vessel Phoenix requesting emergency assistance," Tejo spoke into the communication system. "Hull breach in Sector 7. Life support critical. Any station, please respond." Only static answered him. He tried again, switching to the emergency frequency that was supposed to be monitored by all ships in this region. "This is Phoenix, human vessel. I repeat, requesting emergency assistance. Is anyone receiving this signal?" Still nothing. Tejo leaned back in his seat and stared at the blinking red lights. He knew why no one was answering. This was Valthene space, the edge of their massive empire. The Valthene didn't care about humans. To them, humans were barely worth noticing. They were too weak, too short-lived, too insignificant to matter in the grand scheme of the galaxy. He pulled up his navigation screen. The nearest human outpost was 6 days away at maximum speed. His life support would last maybe 12 hours. The math was simple and brutal. "Well," Tejo said to the empty cockpit, "I guess this is it." He started going through his emergency supplies, looking for anything that might help. His military training kicked in automatically. Check the tools. Check the materials. See what can be fixed, what can be improvised, what can buy more time. Humans were good at that. Making something out of nothing, stretching resources, surviving when they shouldn't. Hours passed. Tejo managed to patch the hull breach with emergency sealant and metal scraps from cargo containers. It wasn't pretty, but it would hold. The problem was the life support computer. The asteroid impact had fried the main processor. He could repair it, but he needed parts he didn't have. His communication system crackled suddenly. "Human vessel Phoenix, this is Outpost Kira 9. I received your distress call." Tejo nearly fell out of his chair. The voice was female, smooth and melodic in a way that human voices weren't. "It was Valthene. Outpost Kira 9, this is Phoenix. Thank you for responding. My life support is failing." I know what you need," the voice interrupted him. "I've been monitoring your communications. There is an abandoned mining station 2 hours from your position. I'm sending you coordinates now. You can make repairs there." Tejo's screen lit up with a navigation route. "Thank you. I didn't think anyone would answer." There was a pause. "Most wouldn't," the voice admitted. "Follow those coordinates. I'll guide you in." The next 2 hours were tense. Tejo's oxygen levels kept dropping, and he had to slow his breathing to conserve what remained. The Valthene woman stayed on the communication channel the whole time, occasionally giving him course corrections. She didn't say much else, but her presence was oddly comforting. When the mining station finally appeared on his sensors, Tejo was feeling dizzy from oxygen deprivation. He managed to dock with the old station, his hands shaking on the controls. "Good," the voice said. "The station still has emergency power and breathable atmosphere. You should be safe there. Will you—" Tejo hesitated. "Will you come here?"
"I'd like to thank you properly." Another pause.
"That would be against protocol, please. You saved my life. At least let me see who I'm talking to." "Wait there," she finally said. Tejo stumbled into the mining station. The lights were dim and dust covered everything, but the air was breathable. He collapsed into an old chair and closed his eyes, just breathing deeply for several minutes. When he opened them again, she was standing in the doorway. Tejo had seen Valthene before, but always from a distance. Up close, she was striking. She was tall, at least 7 feet, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the low light. Her eyes were large and silver, and her features were sharp and elegant. She wore a simple gray uniform, but something about the way she carried herself suggested importance. "You're real," Tejo said stupidly. "Did you think I was a recording?" She stepped into the room, looking around at the abandoned station with curiosity. "I mean, why did you help me? Your people don't usually care about humans." She was quiet for a moment, running her hand along a dusty control panel. "My people don't care about many things they should," she said softly. "I'm Haywan, Tejo." He stood up, swaying slightly. "Thank you, Haywan. Really, you saved my life. You said you could make repairs here? If I can find the right parts. This old station might have what I need in the storage bays." He walked to a wall panel and pried it open. Inside was a mess of old wiring and circuit boards. "Ah, perfect. This looks compatible." Haywan watched him work. He moved quickly despite his exhaustion. pulling components apart, testing connections, and muttering to himself. She had never seen anyone work like this, so focused, so determined. When a tool didn't fit properly, he simply modified it. When a part was the wrong size, he cut it down and made it work anyway. "How did you learn to do this?" she asked. "Military training mostly. And necessity. Humans have to be good at fixing things. We don't have the luxury of replacing everything that breaks." "You were military?" "Engineering Corps. I got out 3 years ago. Now I just run cargo between human settlements." He pulled out a blackened circuit board and tossed it aside. "Exciting life, right?" "More exciting than mine," HFY said quietly. Taeho glanced at her. There was something sad in her voice. "What do you do at that outpost?" "I monitor communications. File reports. Watch empty space." She sat down on a dusty crate. "I've been there for 2 years. Sounds lonely." "It is." They talked while Taeho worked. She asked about human colonies, and he told her about the settlements scattered across the outer reaches. She seemed fascinated by simple things, how humans organized their communities, how they made decisions together, how they chose their own paths in life. After 4 hours, Taeho had the parts he needed. "I should get back to my ship," he said. "Get these installed before my air runs out completely." HFY stood. "Will you be safe from here?" "Yeah. Once I fix the life support, it's smooth sailing to human space." He hesitated, then reached into his pocket. During his work, he had taken a few spare parts, the small pieces of metal and wire. His hands had shaped them almost unconsciously. Now he held out a small mechanical flower, its petals made from thin metal sheets, its stem from twisted wire. "I made this while I was working," he said. "For you? As thanks." HFY took the flower carefully, her silver eyes wide. She turned it over in her hands, watching as the petals caught the light. "It's beautiful." "It's junk," Taeho said, embarrassed. "But you know, it's the thought that counts." "No one has ever made something for me before," she said softly. "Not like this." Before he left, she gave him her communication code. "If you're ever in this sector again," she said. "I will be," Taeho promised. "I run this route twice a month." On his ship heading back to human space, Taeho found himself smiling. He had almost died today, but he had also met someone interesting, someone kind, someone who treated him like an equal, not like a primitive creature from the galaxy's forgotten edge. He didn't know that HFY was the 3rd princess of the Valthian Empire. He didn't know she had been exiled to that remote outpost as punishment for her dangerous ideas about equality and cooperation with other species. He just knew that he wanted to talk to her, again and thousands of light years away. In a lonely outpost, Princess HFY sat holding a mechanical flower made from scraps and smiled for the first time in months. The first message came 3 days after Taeho returned to human space. He was unloading cargo at the settlement on New Sol when his communication system pinged with an incoming text transmission. "The flower still works. The petals move when I touch them." "How did you make them do that?" Taeho grinned at the screen. He typed back quickly. "Simple spring mechanism in the base. Tap the stem twice and they'll fold up like they're sleeping." Her response came an hour later. "They folded." "This is clever. Do all humans make things like this?" "Some of us. We like to tinker. Keeps our hands busy." That first conversation led to another and another. Soon they were messaging every few days. At first, they talked about simple things. How the flower worked, what Taeho was transporting, what HFY could see from her outpost. But gradually, the conversations deepened. HFY asked about Earth, the human homeworld. Taeho told her stories his grandmother had told him, about oceans and forests, about cities that touched the sky, about wars that nearly destroyed everything. "We almost killed ourselves," he typed one night. "Climate collapse, nuclear weapons, resource wars. We got down to about 500 million people before we finally figured out we had to work together or die." "How did you survive?" she asked. "Stubbornness mostly, and we learned to share what little we had. When you're on the edge of extinction, differences don't matter anymore. Rich or poor, strong or weak, everyone had to help rebuild. It took us 200 years, but we made it. Your people cooperate out of necessity. Mine cooperate out of force." "There's a difference." Taeho stared at that message for a long time. There was so much pain in those simple words. 2 months after they started talking, Taeho made a detour on his cargo route. He docked at a neutral trading station near HFY's sector and sent her the coordinates. She met him in a small observation lounge that overlooked the stars. This time she wasn't wearing a uniform. She wore simple civilian clothes in deep blue, and she had done something different with her hair. Taeho realized with surprise that she had dressed up for him. "You came," she said. "Of course I came. I wanted to see you again." They talked for 3 hours. Taeho showed her pictures of human settlements, of children playing in the streets of New Seoul, of the gardens that every colony maintained. Haewon stared at the images with wonder. "Everyone helps with the gardens?" she asked. "Yeah. Young, old, whatever. It's a community thing. Food tastes better when you grow it together. In the Valthine Empire, there are worker castes who grow food. Others would never lower themselves to such labor." "That's stupid," Taeho said bluntly. "Everyone should know how to grow food. It's too important to leave to just one group." Haewon laughed. It was the first time he had heard her laugh, a bright musical sound. "You would be executed for saying that on my homeworld." "Good thing we're not there then." She grew serious. "Taeho, you should know something. I'm not just any Valthine. My mother is Queen Nara. I'm a princess." Taeho blinked. "A princess? Like actual royalty?" "Yes, third in line to the throne. My mother sent me to that outpost because I disagreed with her policies. She believes the Valthine are superior to all other species. I suggested we try trade agreements and cultural exchanges instead of domination. She called me a traitor to our heritage." "Your mom sounds lovely," Taeho said dryly. Haewon smiled sadly. "She's a product of our system. She believes she's protecting our people by keeping them separate, pure, dominant. She can't see that we're stagnating." "Is that why you answered my distress call? Despite the system?" "No." Haewon looked directly at him. "I answered because it was the right thing to do. Because someone needed help. That shouldn't matter which species they belong to." They met twice more over the next 3 months. Each time Taeho brought something from human culture to share. The first time it was music, old recordings from Earth, songs about love and loss and hope. Haewon listened with tears in her eyes. "We don't have music like this," she whispered. "Our songs are all about conquest and glory. These are about feelings." "Humans are very emotional," Taeho admitted. "It's considered a weakness by most other species. But I don't know. I think feeling things deeply is what makes us human." The second time he brought books. Not data files, but actual physical books printed on recycled paper. Haewon held them like they were precious treasures. "Humans still make physical books?" "Some of us. There's something about turning pages, you know? Feeling the weight of a story in your hands." She read them all. Poetry mostly, and some old novels about love and adventure. She messaged him later. "Your poets write about choosing love freely. About marrying for affection rather than duty. Is this really how humans live?" "Yeah, we marry who we want. When we want, if we want." What a beautiful idea. The third time they met, something changed. They were walking through the gardens on the neutral station, a small green space maintained by the station's residents. Haewon stopped to touch the leaves of a tomato plant. "I want to show you my world," she said suddenly. "Not the empire, not the palaces. The real world, the places ordinary Valthine live. Is that safe? Probably not. But I'm tired of being safe, Taeho. I'm tired of living in a cage." She turned to face him. "I'm tired of pretending I don't feel what I feel." Taeho's heart was pounding. "And what do you feel?" "You know what I feel." You must know. He did know. He had known for weeks. He stepped closer to her. "In human culture, when two people care about each other, they can choose to be together. Build a life together. Get married if they want. Valthine princesses don't choose," Haewon said quietly. "We're bargaining chips. Political tools. My mother will arrange my marriage to secure alliances. What if you said no? I've said no to many things. That's why I'm at that outpost." She looked at the tomato plant again. "But maybe it's time to say yes to something instead. Yes to choosing my own path. Yes to you." Taeho took her hand. It was the first time they had touched beyond a simple greeting. Her skin was cool and smooth. "I don't have much to offer. I'm just a cargo pilot. I don't have a palace or political power or—" "You have freedom," Haewon interrupted. "You have choice. You treat me like a person, not a princess. Do you know how rare that is?" They stood in the garden for a long time, holding hands, not saying anything. Around them, the station systems hummed quietly, and the stars shone through the observation windows. But their secret couldn't last. A month later, a Valthine patrol ship spotted them meeting at the neutral station. The patrol commander recognized Princess Haewon immediately. She used her royal authority to dismiss the incident as cultural research, but the damage was done. The commander filed a report. 2 weeks after that, Haiwan received orders from her mother. She was to return to the Valthine homeworld immediately. Her time in exile was over. She was needed for an important political marriage. Haiwan sent Taiho one final message. "They're taking me home. My mother has arranged my marriage to Lord Cavil, a high commander in the military. The wedding is in 3 months. I'm sorry, Taiho. I'm so sorry. Thank you for showing me what freedom feels like. Even if I could only touch it for a moment. Please don't try to contact me again. It would only make things harder. Be safe, be happy. Remember me." Haiwan Taiho stared at the message for an hour. Then he made a call to his old military unit. When his friend Jinwoo answered, Taiho said 6 words. "I need your help." "It's crazy," Jinwoo laughed. "The best plans always are." "What do you need?" "A way into the Valthine homeworld. And information about their ancient marriage laws. That's not crazy. That's suicidal." "Yeah," Taiho agreed. "But I'm doing it anyway." "You really love her?" "More than I've ever loved anything." There was a pause. Then Jinwoo said, "All right, let me call Hyunsu and Sujin. If we're doing something this stupid, we should all be stupid together." Taiho smiled. That was the human way. Stubborn, foolish, and absolutely unwilling to give up. The Valthine labor office on the border world of Talos 4 looked surprised when a human walked in. The clerk, a young Valthine male with green-tinted skin, stared at Taiho like he was a strange insect. "Can I help you?" the clerk asked slowly as if speaking to a child. "I'm here to apply for a work contract," Taiho said. He placed his documents on the counter. "I'm a certified engineer and technician. I can repair ships, stations, or buildings." The clerk picked up the documents with 2 fingers as if they might be dirty. Humans rarely apply for work in Valthine territory. The conditions are not what you're used to, I'm aware. "I still want to apply," the clerk shrugged. "Your funeral. The contract is for 6 months, no extensions. You'll work in the capital city on maintenance crews. Pay is minimal. Housing is shared with other workers. You'll be doing jobs that Valthine citizens don't want to do." "Perfect. Where do I sign?" 3 days later, Taiho arrived on Valthos Prime, the Valthine homeworld. The city of Karnai was beautiful in a cold, imposing way. Everything was tall and sharp, built from white stone and dark metal. The architecture seemed designed to make you feel small. His housing was a cramped dormitory he shared with 12 other workers from different species. None of them were human. They looked at him with curiosity and pity. "Why are you here?" asked a Trill female named Kessa. She was small and covered in brown fur with bright, intelligent eyes. "Humans don't usually come to Valthine worlds." "I have my reasons," Taiho said, unpacking his small bag. "Must be important reasons to accept these conditions." "They are." Taiho's job was exactly as promised, difficult and demeaning. He repaired broken climate systems in the lower levels of the city. He fixed plumbing in worker districts. He crawled through maintenance tunnels that were too small for Valthine bodies. The work was hard, but Taiho had done worse during his military service. What surprised him was how the ordinary Valthine workers treated him. They watched him work with curiosity. When he fixed a heating unit that had been broken for months, the building's residents thanked him quietly. When he showed a young Valthine apprentice a better way to seal a pipe, the apprentice listened carefully and tried the technique himself. "You work differently than us," the apprentice said one day. His name was Dek, and he was assigned to follow Taiho around. "You don't just replace broken things. You understand how they work." "That's the human way," Taiho explained. "We can't afford to replace everything, so we learn to fix things thoroughly. Understanding is more useful than just following procedures." I never thought about it like that. During his lunch breaks, Taiho visited public libraries. He was looking for information about Valthine laws and customs. The librarians were shocked when he asked for access to the historical legal texts. "These are ancient documents," one librarian said. "Why would a human worker need them?" "I'm interested in history," Taiho said simply. The librarian looked doubtful but gave him access. Taiho spent every free moment reading through dusty old files. The legal language was complex, but he was persistent. He took notes. He cross-referenced different texts. Slowly, he began to understand the old traditions that the modern Valthine Empire was built on. One evening, Jinwoo contacted him through an encrypted channel. How's life in paradise? Terrible, but I'm making progress. These people aren't what I expected. What do you mean? The regular Valthene citizens, the workers, the apprentices, the shop owners, they're not like the stories we hear. They're just people trying to live their lives. It's the ruling class that's the problem. That's how it usually is, Jinwoo said. Any luck with the research? Maybe. I found something interesting. There's an ancient law called the right of claim. It was used thousands of years ago before the empire became what it is now. What does it do? If someone wants to marry another person who's already promised to someone else, they can invoke the right of claim. They have to pass 3 trials to prove their worth. If they succeed, they win the right to marry that person. Jinwoo whistled. Does anyone actually use this law? Not in the last 1,000 years, according to the records. But it's never been officially removed from the legal code, which means it's still technically valid. You're going to challenge for Haewon using an ancient law that hasn't been used in a millennium? Yes. That's the most human thing I've ever heard. How are you going to do it? I need to get the Queen's attention first. Then I formally invoke the right of claim in front of the royal court. According to the law, she can't refuse without breaking sacred tradition. And the Valthene take their traditions very seriously. And if you fail the trials, then I probably die. But at least I'll have tried. Weeks passed. Taeho continued working, continued learning, continued planning. He made friends among the workers. Kessa brought him food from her homeworld. Dek introduced him to his family, who were fascinated by the human engineer. Even some Valthene citizens started requesting him specifically when they needed repairs. The human knows what he's doing, they said. He fixes things properly. 2 months into his contract, Taeho was ready. He contacted Hyunsoo and Soo-jin, who had been gathering information from outside the Valthene Empire. Soo-jin had found records of successful rights of claim from ancient history. Hyunsoo had mapped out the palace layout and security patterns. This is still insane, Soo-jin said during their call. Even if you invoke the right successfully, the trials are designed to be nearly impossible. I know. And you're still doing this? Yes, why? I mean, I know you love her, but risking your life. Because she saved mine, Taeho interrupted. Not just on that mining station. She showed me that not everyone in this galaxy thinks humans are worthless. She treated me like an equal when no one else would. And now she's being forced into a life she doesn't want. If there's even a small chance I can change that, I have to try. That's what humans do. We try even when the odds are impossible. Hyunsoo laughed. We really are the galaxy's most stubborn species. Damn right we are. On the day he chose for his challenge, Taeho put on his cleanest work clothes and walked to the royal palace. The guards at the gate tried to stop him. No workers are allowed in the palace without authorization, one guard said. I'm not here as a worker. I'm here to invoke my legal rights under Valthene law. Taeho pulled out a document he had prepared, a formal petition written in ancient Valthene script. I invoke the right of claim under the Old Code's Section 12, Article 7. You are required by law to bring me before the royal court. The guards looked at each other in confusion. One of them took the document and read it, his eyes widening. This is an ancient right. No one has invoked this, and I'm aware, but it's still law. Check with your superiors if you need to, but you can't deny my petition. That would violate sacred tradition. The guard disappeared inside. An hour later, he returned with several officials, who looked at Taeho with a mixture of shock and curiosity. You're the human worker from the maintenance crews, one official said. Yes, and I'm invoking my right under your laws. Do you understand what you're asking? The right of claim requires you to face 3 trials. They're designed to test strength, wisdom, and sacrifice. Many Valthene have died attempting them. I understand. And who are you claiming? Taeho took a deep breath. Princess Haewon, 3rd daughter of Queen Nara, the officials gasped. One of them actually laughed. A human? Claiming a princess? This is absurd. Absurd or not, it's my legal right. Are you going to honor your own laws, or should I let everyone know that the Valthene Empire doesn't respect its own traditions? The official stopped laughing. That was a serious accusation. Wait here. 2 hours later, Taeho was escorted into the palace. Word had spread quickly. Workers stopped to stare as he passed. Palace servants whispered to each other. By the time he reached the throne room, a crowd had gathered. The throne room was enormous, with a ceiling that seemed to reach the sky. Queen Nara sat on a throne of white stone, wearing robes of silver and black. She was tall and imposing with the same silver eyes as her daughter, but none of the warmth. Princess Heiwan stood to one side with other members of the royal family. Her eyes went wide when she saw Tae-ho. What is the meaning of this? Queen Nara's voice echoed through the chamber. Tae-ho walked forward and bowed, not in submission but in respect. Your Majesty, I am Tae-ho, human citizen and worker. I invoke the right of claim under the old codes. I claim Princess Heiwan as my choice for marriage, and I challenge any prior arrangements according to ancient law. The throne room erupted in shocked voices. Queen Nara raised her hand for silence. You dare? She said quietly. A human dares to invoke our sacred laws? To claim my daughter? The law doesn't specify species, Your Majesty. Only that the claimant must be willing to face the trials. I'm willing. Queen Nara stared at him for a long moment. Tae-ho could see the anger in her eyes, but also something else. Perhaps curiosity about this audacious human. Very well, she said finally. Your claim is acknowledged. You will face 3 trials. If you succeed, you will have earned the right to your claim. If you fail, she smiled coldly. Well, we shall see. The first trial begins tomorrow at dawn. As the guards led Tae-ho away, he caught Heiwan's eye. She looked terrified, but she also mouthed 2 words, thank you. The arena was packed with spectators. News of the humans' challenge had spread across the capital city, and thousands of Valthene had come to watch. Some were curious, some wanted entertainment. Most expected to see the human fail quickly and violently. Tae-ho stood in the center of the arena floor, feeling small under the morning sun. Across from him was his opponent for the first trial, a Valthene warrior named Torval. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with muscles that looked like they were carved from stone. He carried a long staff that glinted in the sunlight. Queen Nara's voice rang out from the royal box above. The first trial tests strength. The challenger must defeat our champion in combat. The fight continues until one opponent surrenders or cannot continue. Begin. The crowd roared. Torval moved forward, spinning his staff with practiced ease. Tae-ho held his own staff, standard arena equipment, and tried not to look as scared as he felt. Torval struck first, a powerful overhead swing that would have crushed Tae-ho's skull if it had connected. Tae-ho rolled to the side, barely avoiding the blow. The staff hit the ground hard enough to crack the stone. The crowd cheered. They wanted blood. Tae-ho circled carefully, watching Torval's movements. The warrior was strong and fast, but he fought with confidence that bordered on arrogance. He expected an easy victory. That was something Tae-ho could use. Torval attacked again, a series of swift strikes that drove Tae-ho backward. One blow caught him on the shoulder, sending pain shooting down his arm. He stumbled and fell. The crowd thought it was over. Torval raised his staff for a finishing blow, but Tae-ho had fallen near the arena wall, where the morning sun was casting long shadows. As Torval's staff came down, Tae-ho rolled into the shadows and kicked a spray of sand directly into the warrior's eyes. Torval roared and stepped back, temporarily blinded. Tae-ho didn't hesitate. He swept his staff low, striking the warrior's ankle, the same ankle he had been favoring slightly throughout the fight. An old injury, perhaps, or just a weakness in his stance. Torval's leg buckled. As he fell forward, Tae-ho spun and struck him hard across the back of the head with the staff. The warrior collapsed face first into the sand. The arena went silent. Tae-ho stood over his fallen opponent, breathing hard. Do you yield? Torval groaned but didn't get up. The arena official raised his hand. The human wins through technical victory. The crowd erupted in shocked voices. Some cheered, the workers and lower-class Valthene who had seen Tae-ho's clever repairs around the city. Others booed, angry that their champion had been defeated by a smaller, weaker opponent. In the royal box, Queen Nara's face was unreadable, but Heiwan was crying, her hands pressed to her mouth. The first trial is complete, the queen announced. The second trial will begin tomorrow. That night, Tae-ho sat in a holding cell, every muscle in his body aching. Kessa and Dek somehow managed to visit him, bringing food and water. The whole city is talking about you, Dek said excitedly. They're saying the human fights dirty. I fight smart, Teho corrected, wincing as he touched his bruised shoulder. When you're weaker than your opponent, you use your brain. What's the second trial? Kessa asked. Wisdom, according to the old texts. Some kind of intellectual challenge. That should be easier than fighting, at least. Teho wasn't so sure. The next morning, he was brought to a different chamber, a formal council room filled with Valthene scholars and officials. Queen Nara sat at the head of a long table. Haywan stood behind her, still looking worried. The second trial test wisdom, the queen announced. The challenger will be presented with a historical conflict that nearly destroyed our empire. He must propose a solution. Our scholars will judge whether his solution is valid. A holographic display activated, showing 3 Valthene factions, red, blue, and green, each controlling different territories. An official explained. 300 years ago, these 3 regions fought over control of the Karmak Valley. The valley contained rare minerals needed for our technology. Each faction believed they had the rightful claim. The war lasted 20 years and killed millions. Eventually, the red faction won through superior military force. How would you have resolved this conflict? Teho studied the holographic map carefully. He could see that the valley was rich in resources but relatively small. All 3 factions had legitimate historical claims to the territory. The traditional Valthene solution had been domination. One side won, the others lost. But that wasn't the human way. May I ask questions? Teho said. The scholars looked surprised but nodded. Did any faction have the ability to extract and process all the minerals alone? No. It would require combined resources and expertise. And after the war, when the red faction controlled the valley, did they manage it effectively? No. Production was below optimal levels for decades. Many of the valley's resources remain untapped even today. Teho smiled. Then here's my solution. Instead of one faction controlling the valley, create a joint authority. All 3 factions would contribute workers and resources. They would share the extracted materials equally. Each faction would handle different aspects of the operation based on their strengths: mining, processing, or distribution. The scholars murmured among themselves. One spoke up. That would require the factions to cooperate, to trust each other. Yes. But consider the alternative. War destroyed millions of lives and left the valley underutilized. A cooperative approach would have benefited everyone. More resources, no war, no deaths. The only thing they would have sacrificed was pride. The Valthene way is strength through dominance, another scholar argued. And how did that work out? Teho asked. Your own records show that the valley still isn't being used properly. My solution wouldn't give any faction complete control, but it would give all of them something better: prosperity and peace. Queen Nara leaned forward. You would have our people share power, compromise. I would have them think about long-term success instead of short-term victory. Humans learned that lesson the hard way. We almost destroyed ourselves fighting over resources and pride. We only survived by learning to cooperate. The queen looked at her scholars. Is his solution valid according to the trial rules? The scholars discussed it quietly. Finally, the eldest spoke. The solution is unconventional, but it would have prevented the war and maximized resource extraction. We must rule it valid. The queen's eyes narrowed, but she nodded. The second trial is complete. The third trial will begin immediately. Teho felt his stomach drop. Immediately? He had expected time to rest, to prepare. The third trial tests sacrifice, the queen said, and I have designed this one personally. She gestured, and 2 doors appeared in the holographic display. Behind the left door is a treaty. If you walk through it, I will establish formal trade relations between the Valthene Empire and humanity. Your species will gain access to our technology, our markets, our knowledge. Billions of humans will benefit. Your species will advance by centuries. The hologram shifted. Behind the right door is my daughter. If you walk through it, you claim her and you may marry her. But if you choose this door, I will cut off all relations with humanity for 100 years. No trade, no communication, no cooperation. Your species will remain isolated and weak. The crowd gasped. It was an impossible choice. You have 1 minute to decide. The Queen said, choose. Teho looked at the two doors. His mind raced. This was the trap. The Queen had made both choices painful. If he chose humanity, he would lose Haiwan but betray his love. If he chose Haiwan, he would doom his species to continued weakness and isolation. But then he realized something. The Queen was thinking like a Valthine. She assumed he would accept the premise of the choice. She assumed he would play by her rules. Humans didn't do that. I choose neither, Teho said. Queen Nara's eyes widened. That is not an option. Then you should have said so in the rules. Teho turned to face her directly. You're asking me to treat Princess Haiwan like a prize to be won, and humanity's future like a bargaining chip. I won't do either. Haiwan is a person, not a reward. If she wants to marry me, it should be her free choice, made without pressure or manipulation. And humanity's relationship with your empire shouldn't depend on my personal life. If the Valthine aren't ready to work with humans because we're actually worthy partners, then this alliance would fail anyway. You dare to refuse the trial? The Queen demanded, rising from her seat. I dare to refuse a game that treats people like objects. I came here to prove that humans deserve respect, not to play political games with lives. If you're going to judge my worth based on whether I'll sacrifice love for politics or politics for love, then you've already missed the point. Humans don't think that way. We believe you can care about individuals and communities at the same time. We believe love and principle can coexist. The crowd was completely silent now. Even the scholars looked stunned. Teho continued, his voice carrying through the chamber. Princess Haiwan saved my life because it was the right thing to do. Not for profit, not for politics, but because someone needed help. That's what made me love her, her compassion, her courage to act against unjust systems. And if humanity's progress requires me to abandon those values, then we don't deserve progress. Queen Nara's face had gone pale. Guards, arrest! Mother, stop! Haiwan's voice rang out. The throne room fell silent. Every eye in the chamber was fixed on Princess Haiwan and the human standing beside her. Queen Nara remained frozen on her throne, her face a mask of shock and fury. What did you say? The Queen's voice was dangerously quiet. Haiwan lifted her chin. I said we're married, Mother. 2 weeks ago, when you were arranging my marriage to Lord Cavil without my consent, I made my own choice. Teho's friends witnessed our ceremony. We spoke our vows. By Valthine law, a marriage freely entered and publicly declared is legally binding. You married a human, Queen Nara said, as if testing the words to see if they were real. My daughter, a princess of the Empire, married to a worker from a species we barely acknowledge. I married a person who sees me as an equal, who treats me with respect, who would rather lose everything than compromise his values. Haiwan reached for Teho's hand. I married someone who reminds me what honor actually means. The Queen rose from her throne, her silver robes flowing around her like storm clouds. You have betrayed your empire, your family, your duty. No, Mother. I've finally honored the best parts of our traditions, the parts you've forgotten. The old codes say that a princess must marry someone worthy, someone strong, wise, and willing to sacrifice. Teho just proved all three in front of this entire court. He refused the trial. He transcended it, Haiwan corrected. He showed that your impossible choice was based on a flawed premise. That caring for one person and caring for many aren't opposites. Every person in this room saw it. You can't pretend otherwise. Murmurs spread through the crowd. The workers and lower-class Valthine were nodding. Even some of the nobles looked thoughtful. One of the scholars spoke up carefully. Your Majesty, technically speaking, the princess is correct. The human did address the trial's core question. What are you willing to sacrifice? His answer was that he would sacrifice success itself rather than compromise his integrity. That is unusual, but valid. Queen Nara looked around the throne room. She could see the mood shifting. The human worker had captured the crowd's imagination. His victories in the trials, using cleverness over strength, cooperation over domination, principle over expedience, had resonated with the ordinary Valthine citizens. She could have them both executed. She had that power, but it would make them martyrs. The workers already loved the human who fixed their homes and treated them with respect. If she killed him now, she would create unrest, maybe even rebellion. The queen sat back down slowly. "Who are you?" she asked Teho, her voice tired. "Tell me truly. Who is the human my daughter married?" Teho stepped forward. He looked small in the vast throne room, but he didn't let that stop him. "I'm nobody special, Your Majesty. I'm a cargo pilot, an engineer. I fix things for a living, but I'm also someone who was dying alone in space when your daughter saved my life. Not because she had to, not because there was anything to gain, but because it was right." He gestured to the workers in the crowd. "I'm someone who spent 2 months living with your people. Not the nobles or the warriors, the regular people. The ones who actually keep your empire running. And you know what I learned? They're not so different from humans. They want their families to be safe. They want their work to matter. They want to be treated with dignity. We are nothing like you," the queen said coldly, "aren't you? You love your daughter. I can see it in your eyes even when you're angry with her. That's human too, loving someone even when they disappoint you. Wanting to protect them even when they don't need protection anymore." Queen Nara's expression flickered for just a moment. Teho continued, "Your Majesty, I'm not asking you to change everything about your empire. I'm not even asking you to approve of your daughter's choice. I'm asking you to see what I see, that humans and Valthine aren't enemies. We're different, yes, but different doesn't mean incompatible. Your daughter figured that out. Maybe it's time you did too. You speak boldly for someone in my power, because I have nothing left to lose. You can kill me, imprison me, exile me. None of that changes what I am, a human who loves your daughter and who believes that our two species can learn from each other." He paused. "We're stubborn, Your Majesty. When we believe in something, we don't give up. We failed, we learned, we adapted, and we never stopped trying. That's what humanity offers. Partnership with people who won't abandon you when things get difficult." The queen was quiet for a long time. The entire throne room waited. Finally she spoke. "I cannot accept this marriage. Not yet. You have forced my hand with ancient laws and public declarations, but you have not earned my trust." Haywan's face fell. Teho's shoulders slumped. "However," the queen continued, "I will not execute you or annul the marriage by force. Instead, I declare a 5-year observation period. You will serve as ambassadors, both of you. You will live between our worlds. You will work to build understanding between humans and Valthine. If, after 5 years, you have proven that this union benefits both species, I will formally recognize your marriage and open negotiations for a full alliance." It wasn't what they wanted, but it was better than death. Haywan bowed. "Thank you, Mother. Do not thank me yet. 5 years is a long time. Many things can happen." The queen's gaze softened slightly. "But perhaps you are right. Perhaps I have forgotten that strength can wear many faces. Go, begin your work. Show me I am not making a mistake." As they left the throne room, the crowd parted for them. Kessa was crying happy tears. Dek was grinning. Even some of the Valthine nobles nodded respectfully. Outside the palace, Teho finally allowed himself to breathe. 5 years. It's not forever, Haywan said, squeezing his hand. "And we'll be together. Your mother really knows how to hold a grudge. She's scared. Change frightens her. But she's also curious, I could see it. You challenged everything she believes, and part of her wants to know if you're right." 3 years passed quickly. Teho and Haywan established cultural exchange programs. Young Valthine came to human settlements to learn about cooperation and innovation. Humans traveled to Valthine worlds to study their advanced technology and military strategies. It wasn't always smooth. There were misunderstandings, conflicts, and moments of frustration. But slowly, both species began to see each other differently. Teho taught Valthine engineers his problem-solving techniques. Haywan helped human diplomats understand Valthine customs and traditions. Together, they were building bridges. Queen Nara watched from a distance. She never admitted it publicly, but she started visiting the exchange stations. She observed human children playing with Valthine youth. She listened to joint research teams discussing solutions to common problems. She saw her daughter thriving in a way she never had in the rigid structure of the empire. In the 3rd year, a crisis emerged. A species called the Kreth began attacking both human and Valthine colonies on the frontier. They were aggressive and numerous, and neither species alone could stop them effectively. Teho proposed a joint military operation. The Valthene had the firepower and discipline. Humans had tactical flexibility and creative strategies. Together they might succeed. Queen Nara attended the strategy meeting. She watched Teho present his plan. A coordinated defense that used Valthene ships as anchors while human squadrons performed hit-and-run strikes to disrupt enemy formations. It was bold and unconventional. "Will this work?" the Queen asked. "I believe so, Your Majesty. But it requires complete trust between our forces. They need to act as one unit, not two separate armies." "Trust," the Queen repeated. "You keep asking for that." "Because it's the only thing that actually works in the long run." The joint operation was approved. Teho flew alongside Valthene pilots. His friends Jinwoo, Hyunsu, and Sujin led human squadrons. For 2 weeks, the combined fleet fought the Kreth, and the coordination was imperfect at first. But gradually, the two species learned to work together. Human pilots learned Valthene formations. Valthene commanders learned to trust human improvisation. They won. The Kreth retreated and the colonies were saved. When Teho returned to the capital, he found Queen Nara waiting in the landing bay. She approached him as he climbed out of his ship. "You are injured," she observed. He had bandages on his arm and face, minor damage. "Nothing serious. You led the most dangerous missions yourself. You could have stayed in command and sent others." "That's not the human way. We don't ask others to take risks we won't take ourselves." The Queen studied him for a long moment. "Come with me." She led him to a private chamber in the palace. Haewon was already there, looking confused. The Queen sat down and gestured for them to sit as well. 3 years ago, I watched a human worker challenge my empire's oldest traditions," the Queen began. "I thought you were a fool." "Perhaps you were. But you were also right about many things. I have watched your people work beside mine. I have seen cooperation produce results that domination never could. I have seen my daughter happier than she has ever been." She pulled out a formal document and placed it on the table. "This is the official recognition of your marriage. I am signing it today, 2 years early. You have proven yourselves," Haewon gasped. Teho felt tears in his eyes. "But there is more," the Queen continued. She pulled out a second document. "This is the treaty establishing a formal alliance between the Valthene Empire and the Human Coalition.